Okay. So, Michael and Bill, can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So cool. So, welcome to today's webinar, everybody. Sorry for, I guess, a delay or maybe a non-smoothness, as I'll put it, for getting sharing my screen. I'm still getting a little used to Zoom because the whatchamacallit, the dashboard hides when I work off of two screens. So my dashboard hides when I go into presentation mode on PowerPoint, and I'm just too accustomed to GoToMeeting. Just a little, I guess it's just the nuances of Zoom that I'm still getting used to. So I want to welcome everybody to the webinar today. My name is Rob Romanowski. I'm the Director of Sales Operations with 3HTI. And joining me today and helping me today is Michael LaFleche, the Manager for Technical Services at Onshape, which is a PTC business, and also Bill Stickney, who is a longtime veteran of CAD and a guru of analysis when it comes to regardless of the analysis tools. Bill's just a really smart guy, and he's one of our engineering directors, and I'm glad to have him on the line to help us out today. So what we're going to do is, we're going to take a look at this this Onshape, this new CAD system called Onshape. We should be about 30 minutes in this presentation. We might go a little over with Q&A, but if you have any questions, type those into the chat. We'll try to answer them as we go along. If not, we'll definitely answer them at the end. So the one thing that I wanted to mention about this was in the subject line of the email for this webinar, I wrote the future of CAD and PDM. And really what we're going to look at with Onshape is a completely modern design platform, different from any CAD system, with PDM automatically integrated within the system itself. Onshape was created by two former SolidWorks CEOs, John Hirschdick and John McElhenney. And in an effort to bring CAD to the next level, their focus was to have a powerful CAD system that was 100% cloud-based. And why 100% cloud-based? Well, to allow a couple of things. So a few things, actually, to allow changes to be made automatically. So if you have two people working at the same time on a part or assembly, those updates would be made automatically. And we're going to show that today. Also, if there's any new releases, any new updates or bug fixes or whatever they might be for your current CAD system that you're familiar with, you're always running the latest software with Onshape. So if you're using another software, you have to download the updates or get the new version and everything. With Onshape, you're always using the latest and greatest, which is pretty cool. So let's take a look about what makes Onshape different. And what it is, it's a challenge with concurrent engineering. So concurrent engineering is basically when you have more than one person working on an assembly on a product. You want to have people working on it at the same time. So if we're going to look at this similar to like a whiteboard, we're going to say like this is your engineering team, your design team, and not everybody's going to be in-house. Some of these people are going to be external. They might be part of the supply chain. They could be vendors. They could be work for a mold design house or a sheet metal design house, but they're all part of your concurrent design process. Now, everything underneath this dashed line, this dotted line, are items that will get in the way of concurrent design. And that's because software tools that are installed on your computer are version centric. So if you need everybody to be on the same design platform internally and externally, they would all have to be on the same version of software, or else it's difficult to manage the rate of change that's occurring. So what happens is you end up having to translate files back and forth, up and down, between everybody. And let's look at that process a little bit more. So with concurrent engineering, some companies will use a cloud connected service like OneDrive or Google Drive or Dropbox or whatever. And it's easy to share those files back and forth, but still they're only copies of files. And only one person at a time can work on those files. and they're locked as soon as somebody tries to open that document and somebody else is working on it. And what can also happen is you can end up with what's called a conflicted copy. So then in the system, you'll have, the title of your file, and then you'll have the same title within parentheses conflicted copy. And sometimes you can figure out, well, which one's the right one. So anyway, some companies try to deal with this by, investing in a local file server, or they will invest in a PDM or PLM system to manage the rate of change to protect the files from being improperly written over, and also to build in workflows. But what's interesting is that this can also create more copies of files going back and forth. So for example, with PLM, PLM has a check-in and check-out method. And when you check out the file, it is downloaded to your computer and copied to your, or downloaded to your desktop, your computer, and then you're able to work on it. So the file that's actually still in the PLM system is locked. It's locked in there and nobody else can access it or view it until you check the version back in. And when you check it back in, that file also remains as a copy on your computer, which creates an additional file. And what makes the most sense is probably to delete that file in case you have to go back in and update that file again, because you're going to download it again, and then you'll have two versions of that file, and you always want to be working off of the latest version. And so it can get a little messy. And if you're a larger entity and you need to use the process, PLM is a great tool. But for Onshape, and what we're looking for here is more of a product data management for smaller entities to keep things very simple and keep everything in one place. So people are also using business solutions like SharePoint and business accounts on Google to try to move files and processes to the cloud. However, you're not truly working in the cloud. You're using a synchronized copy that's connected to your computer, and it's almost the same as a PLM system, but you have a lot less control. And all these systems will constrain the processes that people want today, which is to work faster on multiple products and at the same time. So in this illustration, we have 3 engineers as far as the workflow is concerned. And the first engineer, let's say this is a design engineer, and they start the product development process, and they'll pass everything downstream to the next engineer and so on. And when the third engineer gets the assembly and does, then the third engineer will get their assembly and do their work. So the issue is that only one person at a time can work on the assembly, because that's how file-based systems will work. Only one person at a time can have the file and work on it. The longer it takes for everything to get to the third engineer can not only delay the timeline or the deadline, but if they find an issue that the first engineer can only work on, now it goes back to the beginning, and that can become very costly, not just because of additional engineering hours, but lost revenue and costs associated with missing a deadline. And that metric is called the cost of change. And there's also another metric called the cost of delay. And that metric happens when you find problems later in the design process and deadlines are missed, and you have a product that's delivered late. So the way Onshape is architected is that you'll see everything is in one place, and there's never a file copy that goes from the server to the hard drive in order for you to do your work. This is a database-driven approach where multiple people can be in the same assembly or part at the same time, continuing safety and control. And it runs on a unified cloud platform known as the Atlas platform. And everything you need for product development is in one place with a database-driven approach. And once again, it's multiple people that can work on the assembly at the same time with safety and control. So as I mentioned earlier, the people at Onshape actually built a new 3D CAD system in this unified cloud solution to actually solve the problem from files being passed from one person to the other. The solution was not to build a new PLM system in the cloud or a PDM system in the cloud. Onshape created a brand new type of CAD system to be able to do this. And it was built using a modern architecture that supports that concurrent design. Now, because this is a cloud solution, unified, we can do a lot of other things that are innovative, for example, like data management. And data management becomes easy to accomplish because you're not paying an IT tax to maintain your own servers and to keep those servers up to date. There's a lot less data network traffic occurring because files are not being passed back and forth. You have the ability to branch off and explore alternate timelines, as you can see right here on the right-hand side of the slide. You can explore these timelines with an infinite amount of change comparison available right at your fingertips, because Onshape in this process will record everything as a transaction within its system. So you know exactly who made the change and when the change was made. And it's all right there. So there's a lot of other capabilities that Onshape can provide. It can handle a bill of materials, task management. We can go into any of these in more detail if necessary. We could do a one-on-one custom demo and show you specifically how Onshape will fit your business needs and what you're trying to accomplish. But understand the unified cloud solution will allow collaboration in a parallel fashion, and it allows you to work from any device that you want. You can work from a Windows device, an iPhone, an iPad, Chromebook, doesn't matter. And Onshape will allow one person who's using, say, a Windows-based computer and a second person who's using an iMac or an iPhone to access the files at the same time and make the changes that they need to. So as I showed on the data management slide, there's a reduction in the infrastructure cost because this is 100% cloud-based technology and no files need to be passed back and forth. So at this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass control to Bill Stickney, and Bill is going to give a little more of a presentation. Or actually, I'm going to let Bill take control and show his screen, so we can get a closer look at how Onshape works. I see your screen, Bill.
All right, we're good to go then. Some points I want to make here that kind of differentiate Onshape from some of the older CAD tools. First off, similarity. This is, in fact, a fully functional parametric modeler. It is also capable of doing non-parametric geometry, which would be useful in the case of imported models, perhaps. But interestingly, the primary design tool is called a design studio. And in a design studio, you can make parts, and you can make multiple parts. So you are, in fact, doing effectively top-down design right from the get-go here. You don't need any special software or anything unusual to accomplish it. So I have a simple model here. It's got some extruded pieces, and it is driven from a sketch. Now you can have multiple sketches, but this is, in this case, a single sketch, and I have derived two parts from the same sketch. That is truly top-down design. So let me make a change here, and I'll illustrate how this works. I'm going to go back to my master sketch here and perform an edit operation, and what we have here is these hole locations need to be dimensioned. So I'm going to dimension those actually off the corner of the part, like that. And we'll give that a dimension. I think this is in inches. So something like that. And then I'm going to change this dimension. We'll make that maybe 1. So this is all parametric stuff. Anybody that's used a parametric modeler, this would be very familiar. So we'll accept that model. And what you see here is now both parts have changed. So top-down design, driving two parts from one sketch. And you can have more than two parts, of course. It can be quite complex. So I can go in and make changes to this. For example, if these holes up here, if I wanted to change their geometry, I could go in and do an edit and maybe make these countersunk holes. Maybe something like that. And we're good to go. So because of the way I did the sketch, the holes are all aligned on both pieces. And I have accomplished top-down design. Didn't have to pay anything extra for it. Built in, and it works quite nicely. And now if I want to close this thing, I can just go up here and do close notice I did not hit the save button. There is no save button. You don't need one here because this is being saved essentially in real time. Pretty much as soon as you complete an operation, it is recorded. And in fact, if I reopen this, I can show you what's being saved here. I have some versions saved out, but in between these versions, I can do show changes, and here is a list of the changes that have been made from one version to another. So you have very fine detail in here, and this is all recorded automatically. You don't have to really do anything special other than deciding when you have a version that is important enough to perhaps send to somebody. Or maybe you're going to put it on a drawing or an assembly and you want control so you can repeat to that version and not some previous or subsequent version. So this ability to create and manage versions is quite powerful, and it's built into the product. Let me show you a different use of this. I'm going to close this one out, and I'm going to open, this is a weldment. And what we're doing here is showing you that there is in fact a time or pseudo-time element involved in this modeling potentially. So the weldment's an interesting thing. We have, that's an assembly actually. I want to go back to the part studio. There we go. This is where the parts are created. Again, we're creating multiple pieces in one part studio here because they have to fit together. And in fact, we might want to dimension, for example, this gusset, we might want to dimension it off of these other plates. So if these change, the gusset will change to match. That's enforcing design intent. But what's interesting here with a weldment is you have case of showing a as welded version and then also showing a machined, fully finished version. That's done up here with branching. This is an application of the version control and branching. So for example here, I can go to my previous version of an unmachined weldment, and you'll notice all the holes and machining cuts go away. And then I branch off and make a finished product up here where I have added features for things like screw holes or other machining cuts. And both these versions can coexist. And I can also make an assembly out of them. Down here I made an assembly, and the assembly also has both versions. So here is the finished product machined version. Here is the weldment version, which should come out of the welding shop without the holes and other machine cuts in it. And in fact, we could get these on a drawing and show them in both states. So this is not just parametric modeling. This is multiple state parallel model, parametric modeling, where we can show parts at different stages of completion. Now, another use of the branching is if we want to try something out, test a different concept of our design and possibly use it or possibly revert back to a previous one. And that's another thing you can do with the branching here. Now, this is interesting stuff because a lot of the older parametric systems don't do this at all, or at least easily. Here it's built in, you're good to go. Another trick I would like to show you that's unique to Onshape is if we close this out, I want to show you how you can interact with other users. So I have, let's see, I want to open this one. And this actually, I think, is imported geometry, and you can work very nicely with imported geometry. You don't have to have a native parametric model, although you probably would like one. We can make changes to imported stuff as well. But what I've done here is I have set up a second user. So this is me, and then over here I have another user who I have named Dan Draftsman, or Dan Drafter. not a draftsman, a drafter. So I'm going to open up the same model. So we'll take this guy here and close it out. And here's the same model. Now, he does not necessarily have access to this model. I had to do a share operation and give him access because you want to be able to restrict who gets access to things, and you can easily. So I'll open this guy over here. And now I can start making changes. I have two users in the same model at the same time. So I could go in here, for example, and maybe we'll change the thickness or the depth of this cutout here. So we'll grab that surface, and I'll do a direct modeling operation. We'll do a, let's see, I guess I want to do an offset. Maybe not that far, though. Maybe offset that 0.15. All right, so I've made that recess shallower. Now, you could also make parametric changes if you happen to have a parametric model. That's not the important point here. Let me zoom up on this guy, and I will accept this change, and it just reflected over here. So I now have I have changed the model in one user's interface, and it is showing up now in the other user's interface. And of course, this guy could be, you know, anywhere. Does not have to be certainly typically would not be on the same machine, certainly, but could be on a different kind of machine in a different location and could make changes. So we could do the same thing over here. I could make a change here. Let's see, I want to do actually not an offset surface, but a, I think it was this one I meant to do. Move face, that's what I wanted to do. So we'll grab this face over here. This is Dan Drafter making his change. And actually, I want to do the change here. So that was...
Bill, a little tip that I like to give as somebody that's used Onshape for a while, as well as other systems, is that search box up in the corner. You could just type in move face and it will find it. So it's a great way of learning the system.
That would be helpful. And the problem I'm struggling with here is these screens are narrow, so some of these icons have reverted down to the list.
Exactly.
But let me show, that's a good point. Let me show you that. And it found it and opened it.
Yeah.
So I didn't really even have to see it to do that.
Exactly.
I mean, you could get used to this sooner or later, but it is a little easier if you have the screen wider, I'll say that. So let's do this. I'll make this like 0.1. And you see I've made a change here. Click here. Change shows up here. So we don't have to worry about people checking out documents and having conflicts and having to pester somebody to check a document back in. You just both open it and work on it, and you're good. And what else is kind of neat is if there is a problem in communication or your computer goes down or something like that, you don't lose data. In other systems, you know, if I work for a half hour and my computer crashes, I may lose a half hour worth of work. You're not going to lose much of anything here. Virtually nothing, really. So it is a very robust, secure system from that point of view.
And Bill, to clarify what you just said, you said if your computer crashes, not Onshape, because Onshape doesn't crash.
Onshape doesn't crash. It's running in the cloud. It just doesn't crash. Your local machine could. You know, with people working at home, I have a problem because my cat likes to walk on my keyboard, and every now and then he will shut my computer down. But I do not lose data in Onshape. It's already stored. As soon as you do something, it's stored. So it's more like a database application in that respect. So don't think of this as being strictly a CAD application. This is really a CAD and data management application. They're tightly integrated and is very well executed. And you can do some of these tricks here that are just not really possible in other systems. This in particular, I have not ever seen another system where you could do anything like this. Not
Bill,
in the CAD world.
maybe you can indulge a question that
Sure.
I might know the answer to. But let's say you've imported this part, you've made these design changes. Some of these design changes are quite small, right? Because they're moving faces slightly here and there. Is there a way of looking at that in the history and even comparing where you started versus where you are now to have a nice live design review? It's pretty easy to get to in the version and branch manager.
Yeah, we go up here, and I think we want to do changes, do we not?
Yeah, I see the button there next to the question mark in the version and history page. It looks like two kind of arrows kind of in a cycle. Yeah, hit that. This is the best thing when you have a lot of these small changes. You can click on main and you can click on start, and that will show you the differences between where you are now and when you started. So just click on start, and it does this really nice kind of graphical report. And you can pair these little windows down here, of course, because you're got a postage stamp size screen right at the moment. But
yeah,
hit that little box right there. That'll hide it.
Just close that guy for now. All right. Well, the color coding's still there.
Yeah, and you can slide that thing at the top from main to start, and it will play an animation of the differences that you have created as you slide it back and forth.
That's totally cool. I like that.
So this makes it extremely clear. If my brain couldn't quite tell what the differences were until I saw this, right? So that's one benefit of the unlimited version history inside of Onshape.
Again, nothing I can do in other CAD systems.
Exactly.
This is quite a unique tool and very powerful. So, and there's some really cool stuff you can do with this. In addition to being a darn good modeler, I haven't found anything yet I can't model in it. But it certainly does take care of the multiple user case and takes care of the revision case better than anything else I've seen. And I particularly like the temporal or time-based branching. That allows you to do some things that are hard to do in other systems. The Weldman example, for example, makes it fairly trivial to do here, but in some of the older systems, that's a bit of a bugger, trying to keep that all under control. So I rather like this tool. I don't get excited easily, but this is good stuff.
No, there's thousands of companies using Onshape too that would agree with you, Bill. And there's companies that are one-user companies to companies that have thousands of users at each, at their company using Onshape. So it's really making a big difference in the way people can actually do work. And as Rob was mentioning earlier, that time to market is reduced. You're able to do work simultaneously. You're able to change the way you do work in a more agile way. It's really, it's not just, nobody's going to come to Onshape just because it's another cool CAD tool. It's because it's helping you do your work in a better, faster, more nimble fashion.
And it does certainly reduce the requirement for IT services also. This is really easy to set up. You basically just turn it on and go. And that's actually a huge advantage for small companies, with small number of users, because they don't have to finance overhead that, might support 100 users, but they don't have 100.
Right. No,
So
you don't have to worry about storage or anything.
Yeah,
right?
Speed of getting it installed, which is doesn't take any time at all, and the ability to maintain it is way, way better than the older tools. So I've been quite happy with this. I'm having fun with it.
Does anybody on the call have any questions for Bill? Looks like there's a few people here, so on modeling questions, data management questions, how to get started kind of questions.
Well, if someone wants to get started, I can I can basically answer that question. So
Oh, we'll fix you right up.
here, Bill, I'm going to take, can I take control again real quick?
Yeah, let me stop sharing here.
All right.
Okay, you got it, Rob.
All right. There we go. Now I'll just show my screen again. So if you want to get started with an Onshape, Onshape as a trial, we can do a trial, but it's not one of these try to try. It's more of a, hey, I want to try this because I'm really interested in buying this CAD system, because from what you've seen today, you feel like it's going to be able to solve your problem, and maybe you just need a little more information. But it's a 2-week program, which is really cool because every day Onshape gives tasks that you're to perform while using Onshape, because a lot of times with free trials, someone will take a free trial and then they won't use it because it's free. And oh, I didn't really get a chance to figure this out or do this. But Onshape gives a really good roadmap with assistance in how to use Onshape and accomplish what you need to. And we're also there to be able to provide desk side coaching to help you specifically model um, whatever products that you make. So if you're interested in utilizing Onshape, learning more about it, having a custom demo, you can contact us in several ways. So we're available at info@3hti.com. You can call us toll free at 866-624-3HTI. Or you can email me directly, or you can respond to the emails that you received as far as the invitations for this webinar. So that is going to conclude our webinar for today. Bill, I want to thank you for your time and doing the demo. And when Bill says he doesn't get excited frequently, he's right. I mean, unless he's, working on an analysis for NASA like he's done in the past, and he's, has traveled to several NASA space centers. Yeah, that kind of gets him excited. So he and I have shared offline, you know, our opinions about this Onshape product and how great it is. And we're real excited to have this in the PTC portfolio. And Michael, as always, thank you for your help and support. I think the Onshape team is tremendous. And not only how you help us, but your focus and outlook to help your customers as well.
My pleasure.
So thanks everyone for being on. And that's going to conclude our webinar today. Have a great afternoon. And next week, you'll be receiving an invitation probably tomorrow for a webinar next week where we're going to focus a little bit more on the product data management side of Onshape. Thanks, everyone.